John D. Carmack II, born August 21, 1970, is an American computer programmer and video game developer. He co-founded the video game company ID Software and was the lead programmer of its 1990s games Commander Keen, Wolfenstein 3D, Doom, Quake, and their sequels. Carmack made innovations in 3D computer graphics, such as his Carmack's reverse algorithm for shadow volumes in 2013. He resigned from ID Software to work full-time at Oculus VR as their CTO. In 2019, he reduced his role to consulting CTO so he could allocate more time toward artificial general intelligence, AGI. In 2022, he left Oculus to work on his AGI startup, Keen Technologies. Carmack was born in Shawnee Mission, Kansas. The son of local television news reporter Stan Carmack, he grew up in the Kansas City metropolitan area, where he became interested in computers at an early age. He attended Shawnee Mission East High School in Prairie Village, Kansas, and Raytown South High School in nearby Raytown, Missouri. Carmack was introduced to video games with the 1978 shoot 'em up game Space Invaders in the arcades during a summer vacation. As a child, the 1980 Maze Chase arcade game Pac-Man also left a strong impression on him. He cited Nintendo designer Shigeru Miyamoto as the game developer he most admired, as reported in David Kushner's Masters of Doom. When Carmack was 14, he broke into a school with other children to steal Apple II computers. To gain entry to the building, Carmack concocted a sticky substance of thermite mixed with Vaseline that melted through the windows. However, an overweight accomplice struggled to get through the hole and instead opened the window, setting off a silent alarm and alerting police. Carmack was arrested and sent for psychiatric evaluation. He was sentenced to a year in a juvenile home. He attended the University of Missouri-Kansas City for 2 semesters before withdrawing to work as a freelance programmer. SoftDisk, a computer company in Shreveport, Louisiana, hired Carmack to work on SoftDisk GS, an Apple IGS publication, introducing him to John Romero and other future key members of ID Software such as Adrian Carmack. No relation. Later, SoftDisk would place this team in charge of a new, but short-lived, bi-monthly game subscription product called Gamer's Edge for the IBM PC-DOS platform. In 1990, while still at SoftDisk, Carmack, Romero, and others created the first of the Commander Keen games, a series that was published by Apogee Software under the shareware distribution model from 1991 onwards. Afterwards, Carmack left SoftDisk to co-found ID Software. Carmack has pioneered or popularized the use of many techniques in computer graphics, including adaptive tile refresh for Commander Keen, ray casting for Hoverdank 3D, Catacomb 3D, and Wolfenstein 3D, binary space partitioning, which Doom became the first game to use, surface caching, which he invented for Quake, Carmack's reverse, formerly known as Z-Fail stencil shadows, which he devised for Doom 3, and mega texture technology, first used in enemy territory, Quake Wars. Quake 3 popularized the fast inverse square root algorithm. Carmack's engines have also been licensed for use in other influential first-person shooters, such as Half-Life, Call of Duty, and Medal of Honor, Allied Assault. In 2005, when Carmack was on vacation with his wife, he ended up playing some games on his cell phone and decided he was going to make a good mobile game. On August 7, 2013, Carmack joined Oculus VR as their CTO. On November 22, 2013, he resigned from ID Software to work full-time at Oculus VR. Carmack's reason for leaving was that ID's parent company ZeniMax Media did not want to support Oculus Rift. Carmack's role at both companies later became central to a ZeniMax lawsuit against Oculus' parent company, Meta, then known as Facebook, claiming that Oculus stole ZeniMax's virtual reality intellectual property. The trial jury absolved Carmack of liability, though Oculus and other corporate officers were held liable for trademark, copyright, and contract violations. In February 2017, Carmack sued ZeniMax, claiming the company had refused to pay him the remaining $225 million, $27.5 million in 2023, owed to him from their purchase of ID Software. In October 2018, Carmack stated that he and ZeniMax had reached an agreement and that ZeniMax has fully satisfied their obligations to me, ending the suit. On November 13, 2019, Carmack stepped down from the Oculus CTO role to become a consulting CTO in order to allocate more time to his work on artificial general intelligence, AGI. On August 19, 2022, Carmack announced that he has raised $20 million for Keen Technologies, his new AGI company. On December 16, 2022, Carmack left Oculus to focus on Keen. In September 2023, John partnered with computer scientist Richard S. Sutton from the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute to help further AI research efforts. Carmack claims to have maintained a 60-hour work week, working a 10-hour day, 6 days a week, throughout his career. He has spoken publicly about the importance of long hours of uninterrupted focus in his work. Not only does high intensity allow him to make progress more quickly, but long hours are also critical to maintaining a focused mindset over time. Despite working such a demanding schedule, he has never experienced burnout. Carmack is also known for taking week-long programming retreats. These retreats involve a solitary, uninterrupted period away from his normal routine, often sequestered in a random city and hotel. The goal of these retreats is to allow Carmack to operate at full cognitive capacity, tackling a specific, difficult problem or learning a new skill. The solitude and physical isolation of these retreats offer the perfect environment for deep focus and reflection, making them an essential part of Carmack's creative process. Carmack was vocal about his frustration with the bureaucratic inefficiencies he encountered during his time at Meta. In his departure memo, he stated, "We have a ridiculous amount of people and resources, but we constantly self-sabotage and squander effort," he wrote. "I have never been able to kill stupid things before they cause damage, or set a direction and have a team actually stick to it." Carmack subscribes to the philosophy that small, incremental steps are the fastest route to meaningful and disruptive innovation. He compares this approach to the magic of gradient descent, where small steps using local information result in the best outcomes. According to Carmack, this principle is proven by his own experience, and he has observed this in many of the smartest people in the world. He states, "Little tiny steps using local information winds up leading to all the best answers." Around 2000, Carmack became interested in rocketry, a hobby of his youth. Reviewing how much money he was spending on customizing Ferraris, he began by giving financial support to a few local amateur engineers. Carmack funded the company, called Armadillo Aerospace, out of his own pocket for something north of $1 million a year. The company of hobbyists made steady progress toward their goals of suborbital spaceflight and eventual orbital vehicles. In October 2008, Armadillo Aerospace competed in a NASA contest known as the Lunar Lander Challenge, winning first place in the Level 1 competition along with $350,000, $486, $412 in 2023. In September 2009, they completed Level 2 and were awarded $500,000, $690, $323 in 2023. The company went into hibernation mode in 2013. According to Carmack, the work in the aerospace industry is simple compared to the work he does in video games. Carmack is an advocate of open-source software and has repeatedly voiced his opposition to software patents, equating them to robbery. He has also contributed to open-source projects, such as starting the initial port of the X Windows system to Mac OS X Server and working to improve the OpenGL drivers for Linux through the Utah GLEX project. Carmack released the source code for Wolfenstein 3D in 1995 and the Doom source code in 1997, first under a custom license and then under the GNU General Public License, GPL, in 1999. When the source code to Quake was leaked and circulated among the Quake community underground in 1997 after licensee Crack.com was hacked, a programmer unaffiliated with ID Software named Greg Alexander used it to port Quake to Linux using svgalib. As this was more feature-rich than Dave Taylor's earlier X11 port, he sent the patches to Carmack. Instead of pursuing legal action, ID Software used the patches as the foundation for a company-sanctioned Linux port maintained by new hire Zoid Kirsch, who later ported Quake World and Quake 2 to Linux as well. ID Software has since publicly released the source code to Quake in 1999, Quake 2 in 2001, Quake 3 in 2005, and lastly Doom 3 in 2011, and later the BFG edition in 2012. The source code for Hoverdank 3D and Catacomb 3D, as well as Carmack's earlier Catacomb, was released in June 2014 by Flat Rock Software with Carmack's blessing. He has since expressed regret on using the copyleft GPL over the more permissive BSD license. The release of ID Tech 4 occurred despite patent concerns from Creative Labs over Carmack's reverse, while the original Doom source release shipped without music due to complications with the Cygnus Studios developed DMX library, which lead to the Linux version being selected for release. Carmack has since advised developers to be careful when utilizing middleware, noting how it can limit the possibilities of later releasing source code. Tim Sweeney has implied this issue has hindered potential releases of older Unreal Engine source code. On the other hand, despite his technical admiration for the system, Carmack has several times over the years voiced a skeptical opinion about Linux as a gaming platform. In 2013, he argued for emulation as the proper technical direction for gaming on Linux, and in 2014, he voiced the opinion that Linux might be the biggest problem for the success of the Steam machine. Carmack contributes to charities and gaming communities. Some of the recipients of Carmack's charitable contributions include his former high school, promoters of open-source software, opponents of software patents, and game enthusiasts. Carmack was so successful at ID that by mid-1994 he had purchased 2 Ferraris, a Ferrari 328 and a Ferrari Testarossa. In 1997, he gave away the Ferrari 328 as a prize to Dennis Fong, the winner of the Quake tournament, Red Annihilation. He met his now ex-wife Catherine Anna Kong at the 1997 QuakeCon when she visited ID's offices as a bet. Kong challenged Carmack to sponsor the first all-female Quake tournament if she was able to produce a significant number of participants. Carmack predicted a maximum of 25 participants, but there were 1,500. Carmack and Kang married on January 1, 2000, and planned a ceremony in Hawaii. Steve Jobs requested that they would postpone the ceremony so Carmack could attend the Macworld Expo on January 5, 2000. Carmack declined and suggested making a video instead. Carmack and Kong had a son, Christopher Ryan, in August 2004. Their second son was born in November 2009. Carmack is divorced as of 2021. On May 26, 2022, he announced his divorce and how he met his partner Trista through the VR Beat Saber games he would host via Twitter. As a game developer, Carmack differed from many of his contemporaries by avoiding commitment to a final release date for any game he was developing. Instead, when asked for a release date on a new game, Carmack would usually reply that the game would be released when it's done. Employees at Apogee, in their past years the publishers of games by ID Software, adopted this business practice as well. In 2019, as a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience, Carmack stated that his beliefs have changed over time. I largely recant from that now. On Rage's 6-year development time, he says, I think we should have done whatever it would have taken to ship that 2 years earlier. Carmack also reflected on the internal development of Quake in this regard and described it as traumatic, and says ID Software could have split the game into 2 parts and shipped it earlier. Carmack has a blog last updated in 2006. Previously a plan, which could be accessed by making a finger request for an active Twitter account, and also occasionally posts comments to /. Carmack supported the 2012 presidential campaign of Libertarian Ron Paul, and also persuaded the Libertarian Party of Texas to accept Bitcoin as an alternative to donations. He is an atheist. During a conversation with Joe Rogan, Carmack revealed that he had trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo for several years as a hobby. During his time at ID Software, a medium pepperoni pizza would arrive for Carmack from Domino's Pizza almost every day, carried by the same delivery person for more than 15 years. Carmack had been such a regular customer that they continued to charge him $19.95 prices. On occasion, he has commended the efforts of similarly focused programmers, first Ken Silverman, who wrote the build engine for 3D Realms, and later with Tim Sweeney of Epic Games, who wrote the Unreal Engine.